What's up guys, my name is Ace, and Black Ops Cold War has now been out for about 4 months now, so we're about 1/3 of the way through its realistic life cycle until the next expected Call of Duty game comes out. And as a result, I thought it would be a perfect time to just revisit things a little bit to see how much has changed since launch, and just sort of where the game stands at this point, at least in my opinion. Of course, this is going to be a very subjective video. Feel free to disagree, of course, and if you do, please let me know why in the comment section down below. But the main thing I want to focus on here is I want to go back to my week 1 complaints with this game. My biggest issues that I had with this game that I really wanted to see worked out. And I basically just want to go through that list and see which one of them have been addressed, which ones haven't, and how I'm feeling about the current state of the regular multiplayer in this game. Keep in mind this video is not going to be talking about campaign or zombies a whole lot, even though I think they're definitely killing it with zombies this year. They're doing a really good job. My main focus has always been multiplayer, and therefore that's what we're focusing on today. So let's start going through my list of complaints that I had within the launch window of this game. When the game first came out, what were some of my biggest complaints? The first one was a lack of content. The game didn't launch with very many 6v6 maps at all. Also, there weren't a ton of weapons at launch either. Not a horribly low amount when you look at the franchise history, but there weren't a ton of weapons at least. And also, when the game first came out, we were pretty limited in our game modes. So how much of this has changed? Well, when it comes to regular 6v6 multiplayer, which is sort of the bread and butter of Call of Duty, at least traditionally, the game only launched with 8 multiplayer maps, and then Nuketown came really shortly after launch, so I'll kind of throw it in there, I guess. We'll say 9 multiplayer maps, including Nuketown. And since the addition of Nuketown, we've had 4 other maps that have come to the game. These are The Pines, Apocalypse, Raid, and Express. And while I feel the general quality of the maps that we've been getting has been quite good, only 4 6v6 maps 4 months into the game's life cycle isn't really a whole lot of post-launch content, especially considering the fact that the game launched with so few maps. Honestly, I would say the state we're in right now with 6v6 maps is where I would have liked to see the game launch with. Many Call of Duty games in the past have launched with more 6v6 maps than we currently have in this game after 4 months. It's nice that we've gotten a few maps here, and it's definitely improved the variety a little bit. But in my mind, it's been way too slow of a trickle for 6v6 maps considering the lack of content the game launched with, and I do find that to be a little bit frustrating. Now, of course, since launch, they have also added 4 of these smaller maps that can't be played in 6v6. These are the 2v2 or 3v3 maps, and that's great for the people that are into that sort of mode. For me personally, I'm not all that interested in face-off or really small maps and stuff, and I would have much preferred to just see more 6v6 content. But it seems like since last year with Modern Warfare 2019, they're really trying to diversify their offering to appeal to as many people as possible, so I kind of get it. I'm just a little bit annoyed by it as somebody that's been a really long-time dedicated Call of Duty fan that has always just loved the core of Call of Duty multiplayer, which is 6v6. Now, as far as post-launch weapons go, we have seen a few post-launch weapons. I would say at this point, we have the expected number of post-launch weapons. We're getting about 3 non-melee weapons per season, which is pretty much on course and exactly what I expected. And I've got to say, it's been nice to have the game refreshed a little bit every time they add some new weapons into it. Additionally, when it comes to game modes, we've been getting a lot of new game modes. The selection for playlists is much wider than we had when the game first launched. Within the first couple weeks of launch, it honestly felt like we were still playing a beta because we had access to so few game modes. But now it seems like we've got a nice variety of game modes at this point, and they're constantly bringing in new ones and featured ones as well, which is nice to see. So I'll definitely give them credit for that one. They have made huge improvements in this area since launch. So overall, when it comes to the lack of content that was there at launch, I still feel like we are lacking when it comes to 6v6 maps, and it would have been nice to see more by now. But aside from that, I've got to say it feels like they're at least on track with the other content. As for my second really big complaint from the alpha, the beta, as well as launch, this was player visibility. At launch, the visibility in this game was just terrible. There were so many situations where there'd be an enemy literally in the middle of my screen and I just couldn't see them, or at least I couldn't see them in time to react to them, when I absolutely should be for an arcade-style shooter that Call of Duty is. A lot of times it really felt like you were playing hide and seek, and I was really paranoid when the game first launched. So how is visibility now after 4 months? Honestly, I feel like this isn't even one of my complaints anymore with this game. Now that we have a bunch of new colorful operator skins and stuff, and people are branching out and using a wide variety of those, I find it quite rare that I'm running into situations where a character model blends in nicely with the background. Additionally, with the launch of Season 2, they made a bunch of key map adjustments. On Cartel, for instance, they trimmed the bushes down a little bit to make players a lot more visible. That was great to see. That was a huge complaint of mine early on in the game. Also, they made some adjustments on Crossroads Strike, as well as Satellite, and even a couple map adjustments on Moscow. And overall, I gotta say, they have pretty much addressed my visibility complaints. There are very few situations now where I run into a situation where I don't see an enemy where I really feel like I should have. I mean, it still happens every now and then, but I would say no more often than I was seeing in a lot of older Call of Duties. Now, moving on to my third big complaint at launch, and this is something I've been saying from the beginning. I never really anticipated a complete overhaul or rework to this. This is the score streak system. And at this point, 4 months in, they really haven't made any serious changes to this system. One thing I'm really happy about that they brought in that they didn't have at launch was the harp, or basically like the Blackbird from Black Ops 1. And I think this was an amazing addition that definitely improved my enjoyment of the game a decent amount. However, aside from that, I'm still just not a fan of this score streak system. I feel like a lot of the magic of Call of Duty multiplayer was lost when they brought this system in. And for me, at least, it's kind of destroyed a lot of the game-to-game enjoyment that I would get in older Call of Duty games. I used to always love getting into a game not knowing if I'd be able to get up to that highest streak, and I could sort of make that my mini challenge throughout that game to get my highest kill streak. And while doing that and trying to piece the kills together and stuff, there was that buildup of tension and adrenaline as you got closer and closer to your highest streak, until you either earned it, which felt amazing, or at any moment, if you were to die on that streak, then you lose your opportunity and you have to start from scratch again. That has always been a major part of Call of Duty for me, and that's just gone with this system. Now, pretty much every single game I get into, I know for a fact I'm going to earn my highest kill streak. There's no stress or anything involved with this. There's no buildup or tension or adrenaline when it comes to earning that kill streak. I know that I'm just going to get it eventually throughout the match. The only question is, am I going to earn it just after the first round, or am I going to earn it a little bit more toward the end of the game? And this to me took a lot of the spark away from Call of Duty, and nothing has really changed for me here. So unfortunately, this is still a big strike against this game, in my opinion at least. After that, the next big set of issues that I had when the game launched was the feeling of matchmaking, team balancing, as well as the fact that lobbies are disbanding. How much has this changed since launch? When it comes to skill-based matchmaking, in my experience lately, and this could be just due to the fact that I've been playing really infrequently, but in my experience, I've actually been getting a pretty good mix of lobbies. So while a lot of the times I'm still playing in very competitive sort of lobbies with really high-skill players, or at least really high-skill enemies, and not so great teammates, which is that team balancing, in general, I feel like things have loosened up a bit. And I don't necessarily think they've made any adjustments to the matchmaking itself. Instead, I think a lot of what's happened here is a lot of the higher skilled players have either moved back to Warzone or they've moved over to League play, and they're playing far more League play than they are in public matches. And this just means there are fewer of them searching at any given time, and it makes the experience at least feel a little bit easier for me. I don't have any data to back that up because I'm not willing to go through an entire skill-based matchmaking study at this point because it takes so much time and effort to do that. But anecdotally at least, it does feel like things have loosened up a bit lately. Unfortunately though, we still have the disbanding lobby issue. I am really not a fan of having these disbanding lobbies because anytime I get into a good lobby where I've got a good group of people that I'm playing with and against, or I just happen to get into a lobby where my connection feels incredible, once that game is over, I am most likely going to be kicked from that lobby, and it's going to automatically search for a new one where I don't know who I'm going to be playing against, I don't know what my connection experience is going to be like, and that's another thing that takes a lot away from the gaming experience. This is one of the reasons that each one of my gaming sessions is much shorter these days compared to older Call of Duties where you could get into a lobby and stay in that same lobby for like hours at a time. This just leads to so much inconsistency in the game that I don't really want to deal with, and I find that it pushes me away from playing the game for hours on end. So yeah, overall when it comes to the matchmaking and stuff, I feel like things have maybe improved a little bit here, but I still consider this to be one of the bigger issues with this game currently. And this brings us to the next thing that I had on my list at launch, and this is connection inconsistency. Normally with a Call of Duty game, I sort of expect it to launch with a lot of inconsistent connections and stuff, and things are just going to be feeling really weird from match to match. And normally, in my experience at least, that just sort of improves as the year goes on. It just gets better and better and more consistent as time goes on, and usually by the end of the game's life cycle, the general connection experience is great. Unfortunately, with Black Ops Cold War, I feel like things have been getting worse since launch. I've already ranted about this a ton in the past, so I don't want to get into it too deeply here, but my connection experience is incredibly inconsistent. Some games I'll get a ping of about 50 milliseconds, which is awesome, that feels great, and that's what I should be playing on. That's the best ping that I can typically get to any COD servers based on where I live. However, I'm still very frequently getting into games where my ping is 100 plus. So literally double the ping that I should be getting. And I've seen no sign of improvement whatsoever in this area, and therefore this is still a huge issue that I have with the game. Actually, at this point, I would say this is my #1 issue with multiplayer currently, and the reason that I'm not playing it as much as I would normally like to. In fact, I often find myself when a new gun comes out, for instance, and I need to level it up so I can get attachments and stuff for my content, I find myself going to zombies to level that gun up just because it's a low stress and consistent environment. I don't want to hop into multiplayer and get 100 ping playing with a gun with no good attachments on it trying to level it up, especially when you also have like the team balancing and the skill-based matchmaking involved there. I just find that to be stressful. I would much rather just sit back, relax, not have to really worry about any sort of inconsistencies or anything like that, and grind my guns in zombies. And it just feels so strange to me because I'm not much of a zombies player. I don't even really love zombies all that much. I just find it to be the least stressful way to rank up my guns. But finally, this leaves us with one last thing that I had on my list at launch that was a big issue that I was running into, and this is aiming issues, especially with aim assist. It really felt like the aim assist was too strong, and it would often like push you off target or it wouldn't let you get onto target, and it felt more like an aim resist rather than an aim assist. And while I'm still seeing a decent number of complaints from people and they're still running into this issue, in my personal experience, ever since they added the legacy aim assist option, which I switched to immediately, I almost never run into these aim resist issues. It feels like an older Call of Duty for me at this point, where, yeah, it still happens from time to time, but those situations are few and far between, and therefore it's really just not one of my major complaints anymore. The aiming feels great, in my opinion, with all the updates that we've been getting since launch. So yeah, I know some people might be upset to hear me say that, but I'm just talking about my personal experience here, and I'm being completely honest with you guys. The aiming issues seem to have disappeared for me, but I acknowledge the fact that there are still people that are clearly having this issue. I've seen a lot of clips, even lately, from people. They'll tweet them to me, for instance, and you can clearly see that they're getting some sort of like an aim resistance as they're trying to get on target. So I feel for you, but I'm just speaking from my experience. The aim issues have pretty much completely gone away for me. And with that, that pretty much covers it for all of the big issues I had at launch with this game. Some of them are definitely still around, and some are even worse than ever, like the connection inconsistencies. But overall, I do feel like the game has made some nice improvements since launch. I still think we've got a lot of room for improvement as time goes on here, and I do hope the game will continue to improve and address a lot of issues. But comparing the state of the game right now to the state of the game on launch week, I would say we're in a significantly better place than we were, and I'm looking forward to seeing where things end up going as more time passes. Of course, that is just my opinion. I'd like to know in the comment section below, for anybody that did play the game at launch and has played it recently, what do you guys think? Have you noticed a lot of improvements with this game from then until now? Or do you still feel like it's just as bad as it was when the game first launched? Just let me know those thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.